I'm nobody and no one, but I can chop you with no knife, with no gun in hand. I can hit you, I can keep you down. All undone, pile of papers you really gotta sign. You should call, we don't like to hear. Any point you can go back to the main menu, just press one. You still don't know how to hide it, so damn fucking good. You cheat and know how to justify it, so damn fucking good. Look at all this.
The song you just heard is from the fantastic debut album of the Israeli singer Noga Erez. I don't know why I'm pronouncing that Spanish. An album which is called Off the Radar. That's intense and smart music, sometimes arrhythmic and with unexpected breaks and strange sounds. But music that always is finding that sweet spot of, I guess, what is true and what is beautiful. It's music which makes pretty addictive because it tries not to escape the conflicts of what it means to live in this world, particularly in Israel and Tel Aviv, but affirms those conflicts and in it finds its harmonies. I'm very happy to be able to present to you the conversation I had with Noga. She just came from her European tour and we did talk about her music, creativity in general, and the ways she sees the world. My name is Thomas Mark. Enjoy this episode of Lateral Conversations. How's life in Tel Aviv?
I love Tel Aviv. You know, I think it's probably one of my favorite cities in the world. After seeing so many cities around the world, I have decided that I love it. So. Because it gave me a perspective. It's very mixed. It's not just one thing. It's very dirty and very beautiful at the same time.
Right.
It has very many aspects. Have you ever been here?
No, not yet. This is why I'm asking. So, how is the musical culture there?
It's crazy. It's pretty insane. I think. I don't know if you know, but it's a very, very small city. Israel is a very small country, and Tel Aviv is a small city. There are 400,000 people live here, but there is so much going on. And the music scene, it's basically like everywhere else. There are clubs and venues and a lot of very, very good bands. A lot of talent, a lot of musical talent here for sure.
Yeah, I was just last year. I was like in Lisbon, and it's about the same size, I guess, than Tel Aviv, and it's like a culture with a city with lots of music, lots of bars, and it's pulsating. Is that Tel Aviv is like that?
Yeah. It's very similar, I think, because it's also a very similar atmosphere, I assume, because of it being a beach town as well. It does something for people, to live on the beach, to have the ability to breathe the sea, to breathe the ocean, and to go and watch the blue.
Sure.
And it's summery, so it's very outgoing in a way.
Right. So, and politically wise, how's the climate there?
Well, if we're talking about Tel Aviv and not about Israel, because talking about Tel Aviv and Israel is a different thing. I don't know how many people are aware of that, but Tel Aviv is considered a bubble inside of Israel. People who would criticize Tel Aviv would say it's a bubble, but it's also a bubble in the positive sense of it being an island of sanity in a way, in an ocean of insanity. People here are, most population here are people of, who believe in ideas of very forward-going, forward-thinking people, very liberal, socialist, left-wing mostly, and yeah. So you can find people here mostly on the left side of the political map of Israel, which also makes it kind of isolated and like an island, because that is not the majority of people in Israel, as we know, because that's not what the people have elected in the past long time.
Right.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I can go on about it forever. You know, basically, Tel Aviv is, I think, one of the weirdest places for sure. It's very, very weird. It contains of so many different things because of where it's located, because of the political climate in Israel, because of how connected it is to the roots of Israel, but also so connected to everything that is happening around the world.
Right.
So.
Right. So you're on one side you're living in a bubble, on the other side you have a different perspective on political issues, right? So
that's exactly it. Yeah.
Right. So how much does it influence you in your creative work, like this bubble-like experience or existence with a special view on Israel and the political things?
I have moved back to Tel Aviv just a few months ago, because I left Tel Aviv for a few years to live outside, because in a way I felt that I wanted to step out. And first of all, to step out of the big city and the noise and the craziness, but also to help myself financially, because Tel Aviv is also an extremely expensive city to live in. But I don't know. I think that the answer to that question is always that the place that you live in and your surrounding always, in a way, blends into your personality. And it's always a question about how connected you are to what's happening in your near environment, because you can be a totally international or global person. You can be a citizen of the world, and that is mostly how I feel. I feel like I am a citizen of the world because I'm influenced and connected to what is happening in the world. And, I was born and raised here in this place that has so many aspects. First of all, the political aspect, the fact that Israel has been a very, very conflicted place that has to do a lot with situations of violence and occupation, etc., etc. Yes. Really a subject that can be talked about for forever. But also at the same time, it's a place of multicultural blend, because people who live here are people from all over the world, because Israel is a very, very young country, very young state. It's only 70 years old this year, and people came here from all over, so you can still feel firsthand a very diverse blend of cultures here, cultures from Africa and Europe and America and all over. And it really does something. And it blends into how you think about culture. And I think that this is why I meet so many people here who are extremely open-minded to culture. Nothing feels foreign. Everything is familiar in one way or another.
Right. I can sympathize. I live, I'm obviously German, but I live in Mallorca in Spain now. And I think like Germany and Europe is a bubble in itself.
Yeah.
And Mallorca is a bubble within that bubble. So I have the advantage to live in that bubble, but otherwise to be a little bit disconnected to my own culture, but to see more clearly what's going on. I'm not that entangled with the problems in Germany, for example. But I'm, and this is like I'm privileged in that way like for my writing, to be in that position. It's like I can understand that.
Yeah. I think it's important to, if you have the opportunity, it's also, as you said, as you described it, it's a privilege to be able to step out of your place of birth and go somewhere else. Because, the place we were born into is not a place that we chose, is something that was forced on us in a way.
Right.
And not so many people make that decision to try how it is to put themselves in a different environment. And I think that this is something that can teach so much about who you are and what goes with you when you change your environment, when you change what you see, the view and the atmosphere. It's a very important lesson, I think, and something that really the very, very privileged people are able to do.
Sure. So your album Off the Radar, you wrote this completely in Tel Aviv, or when you were living outside? How did that come to pass?
I mean, living outside is basically 40 minutes away from Tel Aviv.
Oh, right.
So it's not, everything here is so close by. But we had me and Ori, my partner, Ori always has a studio in Tel Aviv where he works, because he works as a producer for other projects as well.
Right.
And he has a lot of stuff going on in there. And that is the studio that we used when we needed like more of a proper studio in order to make things sound right. So it was always kind of on the line between where we lived, which is more of a suburb, and Tel Aviv, and in between, because the way on the train from Tel Aviv and to Tel Aviv was always kind of another workspace.
Right.
And everywhere is basically a workspace when you have this ability that we have of making music on the computer.
Right.
So
right.
The creative space is very dynamic.
So for how long did you work on that album?
I always try to think how to answer that question, but I think that I can say that generally it was a process of 2 years, but
right.
It wasn't a very a very intentional process. We didn't say, okay, we're gonna work on an album. It was a very messed up process. We worked on different songs, but the moment we decided that it's going to be an album and that we have enough songs to choose from, it took us about 6 months to finalize it. But we collected songs for more than that.
All right. Okay. So and when did you know? I tried to phrase that question because I mean this is a great album. I really like it, and it got great reviews as far as I understand. When did you realize that you have something there? I mean, it's just not like doing songs. Everybody can do songs, but this album has something special. So when did you realize that? Did you know that from the beginning, or?
It's a good question. It's such a complicated process, making music generally, making an album specifically, and being sure about your creativity and the musician that you are is a very rare place to be in. I think just to talk about myself personally, because this is a process of two people. Me and Ori are both in it. But when I talk from my perspective, it's such a ride. Sometimes I feel so confident about things, and I listen to things and I say, well, I do have something really unique here and really special. And sometimes it's a love-hate relationship all the time. And it really is a ride. It's a roller coaster. And So I don't know. There's not one moment that you feel, but I am sure that that there was a moment when I realized that we were on a track, you know, because we were trying things for a long time, but then at some point something about our sound came to a point of being something of its own, because we are, you know, we listen to a lot of music and we are extremely influenced by something else every single day, you know, and we allow that to ourselves. This is something I've learned from Ori, to really allow yourself to be influenced, even if it sounds very similar to something else.
Right.
So you end up getting things that sound like other things, but then as things develop, you kind of get in a track that feels like it's your own. So there was a point like that for sure.
Right. Yeah, the Spanish, they have an expression, they call it a don. A don means, it's not exactly a gift of God, it's like more than a special capacity or special talent. You know, the Greeks have called it genius or something like that. And it's something special. You know, you have something, you know, you can produce something, you're embedded in a culture, but you can produce something new. You know, when you have something, and I guess that was the impression I had when I listened to the album. I came to your music because I listened to the new album of Ron, right? Miraculous. So and there was a song, and what was the song name? Where yes. And I thought, who is that? So I Googled a little bit, and then I found your album, and it's great. So let's talk a little bit about no problem. So let's talk a little bit about creativity and the process, how you go ahead on creating a song, for example, or creating or integrating your environments and producing something new. How do you go ahead?
The process is very dynamic. It changes a lot over time, and it changes from one song to the other. Basically, you can say that the division between me and Ori is that Ori is a very he's a producer, you know, per se. He is a sound technician by all means, and an amazing song producer, and I'm the text part about me is something that has always been very strong, and I'm big with words. You know, I read a lot, and I have been writing lyrics all my life. But we both kind of cross over when it comes to. I mean, I produce music myself, and he writes lyrics, and so you can feel the strong sides of each of us inside the process. But at a certain point, when we get to the final result, which is a song, I would say, you can't really tell who did what, and that is a beautiful, you know, synergy about the collaboration between us. But that's the thing about it. It's been such a long time that I have been so used to working with another mind, another person who always feeds my creativity. So it can start with someone having an idea. That idea could be lyrical, or could be a beat, or a melodic idea, and then the other person would help develop that idea and drop some of the content and replace it. And so I would say that if I need to describe the creative process, is the best way would be to talk about it as a conversation. You know, it's a conversation between two people. Someone has something to say, and there is a response. It's a dialogue. It's a very, I think, it's the most accurate way to describe how we make music. It's a conversation between our creative minds.
Right. So, and take for example that song "Worth None." It's a very beautiful song. So, but it's not. I mean, what I want to say is you're not making boilerplate love songs. You know, these are tense songs. You know, very tense and very energetic. So, but take "Worth None." What was the impetus, the idea for that song, and how did you put this into conversation?
That one specifically had a very it had a very complex process. I started something, you know. I started a drum pattern, and I wrote the chorus on it, no doubt, because your life is worth none, and I had the vocals on top of it, and that was my idea. And then Ori came with an idea for the melody for the verses, which really made, I think, the whole thing complete, because of how he structured the melody there. Not to get too technical about it, but it had a completely different production. So the production that I started initiated the song. You know, I started something that sparked the idea in our minds, and we went for more than a year with that production for a very long time, and performed with it and recorded on top of it. And one day I just, you know, we sat at the studio, and then Ori said, well, I have to see if I can do something about it. And then he changed the whole thing, and it became what it is today.
Right.
Which is also, you know, a really kind of, it's a crazy thing to be able to do, because you get so attached to how you treat a song, and to be able to tear it apart completely and do something else. It's one of the greatest challenges, and being working with someone else is something that allows that, you know, because you would always have someone who will have a perspective and can say, well, let's try something completely different now. And if you're open enough, you can get to really interesting places. So it was a really big detour that we did until we had that. And if we talk about the lyrics, the lyrics were written during a very intense timing of war in Israel.
Right.
That took place in 2000. I think it was 2015, but I'm not sure.
Right.
And you know, the concept of the whole perspective is, you know, sitting in my room in Tel Aviv and having that situation happening outside. Sometimes an alarm would go off, and you need to go to shelter, but basically you go to shelter because you are sheltered.
Right.
Someone is protecting you and you're safe. That is the point of view from which I'm talking, but thinking that at the same time, from the other side of the border, there are people who have no shelter,
right,
who are not protected. So we experience the same situation on both sides, but it's not the same situation. I am on the privileged side of things. It's that realization, I think, in Worth None, that is probably the strongest in the album. You know, understanding that on the same line, I am on the lucky side. I am on the safe side of things, and that comes with a lot of different emotions. One main one is guilt, but there are other, you know, feeling gratitude and feeling upset that this is the situation to begin with, and you know, all kinds of things.
Right. So you first have an idea in your mind, or you hear something, or you have a feeling, or what is the first impulse for a song like this, for example? What is going on when you're in that moment? in the first moment?
Many times it's an impulse, as you said. It's just something that comes up. Nothing, no intention behind it. There's never an intention. We never, plan it and say we want to write a song about this and that. That's never how it happens.
So you're not an activist, not just to be clear, because right? Okay. Mm-hmm.
No. I don't think that I'm entitled to say that I'm an activist. I think that what I do eventually has an intention and has an added value to it. But I'm not an activist. I think that it will take me some more action to get entitled to that very specific title. The idea is a very intuitive thing that comes from a music point of view and nothing else, because we are musicians first and foremost. We come with an extra baggage of things, but we are musicians.
Right. So, but what I mean is, we as humans, we have millions of ideas and impulses in our minds. So when do you know you can make something out of that? You have something, and then, I can explain it when I write a book, for example. So I have 1,000 ideas, but I cherish them all, but I have to have the knowledge that I can do it. I have to be in that state of mind where I can see the end of the book. And if I can't see it, I can't write it, Right. So I wonder if that's maybe the same. So you have to know that you can do something with that thing you have, with an idea, or how does it work?
I adore and worship and admire and envy people who write books. Seriously, I think I don't know. I don't even know how to describe how much appreciation I have for people who can write a long piece of text that has a narrative and has, it's mind-blowing for me that people are able to actually do it, because I know how much a creative process has its ups and downs, and you really have to have a very strong belief that is so rooted in your character, in who you are, in your personality, and that you will not be swayed away with all the different moods that you experience in a period of time. The same thing I feel about people who make movies, because I know what a long and intensive creative process it must be, that has so much ups and downs. A song is a short-term piece,
Yes.
And you can work on a song for a year. It happened to us, that you work, but at the same time, that's why I feel that making music is such an easy thing to do, especially if you make songs and not a symphony. You have a short piece of work that you can feel whether it's working on or not, and if it's not working, it's not like you're throwing away the whole thing that you did because you are doing other things at the same time. You're creating beats of different pieces of music all at the same time, which eventually you assemble into an album, which is a greater piece. But I do think, in a way, that being a songwriter and being a musician is a much easier process than being a book writer or being someone who directs movies, or it's easier to give up ideas that are not satisfying enough.
Right. So you were mentioning something. Is that when you're doing a song, is that you're exploring yourself with that? I mean, you were describing it. You start a song and maybe it doesn't work out at first, and then you have to think about it, and then you live with it, and then you refine it in a way. Is it something that has something to do with you as Noga to understand yourself better and to to explore more of yourself and of your worldview? Is that something?
There is many layers to it, as you can I think relate. There's always the personal aspect to it, understanding that what I'm doing now could be a very good start of something, but maybe me in the future could handle it better. It happens to me a lot, that I start something that I know that I'm not ready for emotionally, or that I'm not ready to develop it intellectually or with my musicality, and because I'm writing songs, I'm able to do the very simple and important action of putting it aside and doing something else in the meantime. That is I think the most important thing about it. And then I go investigate, and that investigation and that learning process comes in many different layers. Sometimes it's to inform myself. I'm trying to talk about something, and I know that this thing that I'm going to talk about has a greater context, it has more details than what I'm aware of. So I go and read about things. I've learned so much just by trying to write songs, because there is something that is interesting for me, but I don't know enough about it in order to write a song about it. So there's also a sense of responsibility. I'm not going to talk about something I have no idea about.
Right.
That's one quest, but the other quest, and the more intense and challenging and interesting eventually one, is the quest, to search for something that is inside, that is harder to express in words. It's that state of mind. It's to search for that moment of you in your element, because a lot of people, especially I think in music, talk about being in your element, being in your zone.
Right.
Because as a writer, you can have your zone, you can have your moment of inspiration that is combined with your skill and with your intelligence and intellectual, but because music is an art form in time, it's an art form in time. Music has a timing. It's 3.5 minutes a song, and the progression of being exposed to that format of art is through time. Then that element aspect, being on a very specific mode, is so important. It has so much to do with how you would capture that moment, and looking for that is a quest. At the beginning, you find it very naturally. And that is why you fall in love with doing it, because you find yourself suddenly in your prime and you're so creative all of a sudden. But then it disappears for such a long time, and you have to look for it again and again and again. And then you grow up and you have so much things blended into it, like who you are and how worried you are, and how it becomes your career, so it influences how you think about it, and going back to that primal place, to that very wild place of you're just being so accurate and useful of the talent you have, and that very specific moment of being in touch with yourself. Right. Yeah. I mean...
No, that's very interesting. Yes. No, sure. Because I like when you always, not you, but an artist, I guess, has always like to search within himself and like to find that moment where truth and beauty comes together. And I have that with your music a lot. I mean that. Again, coming back to that song you did with Ron, there was like a quote. and you saying, I don't know if you wrote this, but you saying, I won't be a smaller version of myself. And you sang that like a mantra, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I found that equally true and beautiful, like how it was arranged. So
thank you.
Was it something you discovered within yourself, or?
Yeah, I mean, this would really be the first time I ever talked about wave, you know, in an interview, and I'm kind of trying to think how to form the discussion about it. But wave is a song wave is not about me, you know. It's a story that I'm telling about someone else, and a story from a perspective of someone else, and that it's a story told by a woman, an old woman who's very close to death, you know, to the ending of everything. And on that moment, she's thinking, I think, one of the most important thing that you experience when you are in the very last moments with your family and with your beloved ones is, how am I going to be remembered, and how is the situation that I'm in now going to influence the total memory they have of me? Because you know, I lived for long, and now I have my final moments. Those final moments are not always very pretty, but I want as much as I can to be left as a good memory of myself, as the full version of myself, with all of the aspects of my personality.
Right.
Yeah, I really think that this sentence is, you know, I won't be a smaller version of me, is you know, is something that is also connected in a way to Off the Radar in a very twisted way, because we are all trying to exist, you know, to be someone, to be a part of this world and make some kind of note to this world, and at the end of things, you know, at the edge of our existence, we all want to be remembered,
right,
in a good way. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, but okay. So you're mentioning Off the Radar. So let's talk about this in a more general sense. So what is the basic idea, the basic theme of that album in regard of maybe yourself? So where were you in time and space to create that thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what is the overarching theme of the album, and how does it relate to you? I mean,
yeah, you know, that's the bigger context that we were talking about, because I said before, in a way, that, you know, being a musician is easy and being a songwriter is easy because you deal with a short term, like a marathon, you know.
Right.
But the greater context, you know, of an album, and why do you even make an album? That is a question that should be asked. That's Ori, by the way.
Hi, Ori. Hi there.
So that's a question that should be asked. Why? I mean, I make those songs, and then why do I put them together and assemble them into something with a context? And it should even be asked even more today, because you don't have to do that no more. You know, that concept of an album is not a must. Mm-hmm. But we chose to make those songs an album because we found a ground base to everything, and I think my best way to really describe it is what occurs in someone's mind, you know, the action, the internal action, which is so vivid and so ongoing, and it never stops, you know, the endless amount of content that someone has in their mind, and the endless dialogues, the internal dialogue that we always have, that stream of thought that is always existing and never stops. And it's a whole world, you know, it has images and sounds and words, and I really believe and really feel that it's a world, and it's hidden, and there is a lot of it to investigate, you know, that we as human beings, if we stop and look inside, there is a lot to discover in there. And the other world is the outside world that is very visible to us, but also has many hidden layers that we come to kind of unwrap as we try, you know, as we try and we learn. And that outer world is also a very complex and beautiful place. And the clashing that the two have is, I think, that moment of creativity, of how my context, where I am from, how I was brought up, my idea about the world, which is influenced by how I was raised in my environment and everything I was taught, and all the ideas that I have about myself, and how it meets my immediate environment, how I relate to other people, my relationships in life, the more personal aspect of things, and how that meets the global idea of the world. What is happening in my country? What is happening to other people who are away from me? How do they live their lives? How is my life in comparison to other people's lives? Because that is another layer of understanding yourself. That whole thing, and how it is today specifically, you know, that aspect of we live in a very unique time, I believe. So that blend of things, the internal world, the outside world, and all the layers of it in the specific time that we live in today, with a more with the sharpest angle, I think, would be on social media, because I believe that the way we express ourselves to the world through that is another new layer to our identity.
So you're referring to the song "Pity," I guess, no?
I'm referring to basically everything in this album. I'm thinking about this album as a whole, and I was kind of going in a stream of thought here. But if I try to summarize it, the inner world, the outside world, and where we are today in time, in history, in the specific situation we are at with social media, how connected we are to the rest of the world all the time, and how we are able to present ourselves to the world. That is, I think, the essence of Off the Radar. It's a very, you know, it's a timely album. I don't know if people will understand it that way 30 years from now, because it's going to be so different. But that is what we are talking about.
So where does that interest come from? I mean, the way you're describing it, you want to produce a mirror for yourself and for the society you live in. But as I said, you don't have the interest of making boilerplate love songs. So you know, you could do that. So, but you don't. So why your approach? Where does that interest come from? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, I mean, my answer to that would be much simpler than what I was talking about. The reason why you can hardly find the more personal songs in the album, and songs that talk about relationships and love and things like that, is because I find that area in me very peaceful.
Right.
Relationships in my life, luckily enough, are in a very peaceful place.
Right.
And I have experienced before, times of feeling that, first of all, that I have a lot of problems with my immediate environment, with my family, with relationships in my life. But also I have had times in my life that I felt very, very lonely and very detached from my immediate environment. I felt that for a very long time, but I have solved it in a way.
Right.
I made a process with it. So today it doesn't feel very relevant to me personally to talk about it.
But you're not feeling at peace with the world, and if I use that word.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And that leaves me place to handle things that I'm not in peace with, and that is the world.
Right. So you're experiencing internal conflict and in regard of the world, and you channel it into a song. So just
yeah.
Yes.
That is
right.
true.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So why Off the Radar? Why that title? I mean, I know it's a silly question to ask an artist because it's up to the public, to the receiver to have that interpretation. But like in regard of what you said, why? What can you explain it?
Yeah. I mean, I find myself explaining the title and kind of changing the way I explain it and changing the way I think about it, because from the get-go, Off the Radar had so many different meanings for me. So and then when the song was released and the world was kind of the song became something of the public, then I got even more interpretations for it.
Right.
Off the Radar, the radar. What is the radar right now for me? The radar is the how would I define it? The radar for me right now is the awareness, the awareness of the world in its visible way, in its shallowest kind of level. That is the radar, the surface of things. And Off the Radar is finding yourself somewhere underneath it, somewhere deeper than that. That is an awareness of the less visible aspects of yourself and the world.
Right.
That is what it is for me today, but it was different. It was different before.
Yeah. I was wondering because I mean you're exposed to the public now, and the public has their opinions. How much does it change your creative process? Like to know, okay, I suppose you're working on new stuff, or you're working on new stuff soon. So how does that knowledge of the public influence your creative process? Or does it? Or doesn't it? I don't know. It's like...
It does. I mean, of course it does. Everything comes in, everything is there, and it exists in how we do things. And when it comes to our creative process, now we are creating music from a different place, because when we wrote the songs for Off the Radar, we were already in a situation of performing, and in our scene we were known, so we knew that we are writing songs that people are going to eventually hear. But today it's on a way larger scale, and that influences, I think, it touches things in a subconscious way. Right now, only in a subconscious way, and I feel that we are very alarmed, and we are very cautious and aware that it might go beyond that subconscious way, and it might even be a part of how we structure the song or how we create the music. And that is something that we are both aware of and trying to prevent.
Right.
Because I would say that as much as I think that everything is everything, it is all a part of it, and it should also be expressed. I do feel that this one aspect, how you expect people to hear the music that you make and how you think that they will accept it, is such a wrong way of thinking, and you could never really expect how it will be perceived. So you might as well just leave that thought aside,
right,
and try to do things the way you did them before you even knew that someone is going to show any interest in what you do.
Right. But I mean, you are in a conversation with the public now, and the public reacts to specific songs more than to other songs. I would presume, like, so,
yeah.
So, and isn't there like the inclination to do more of that which works? Or
well, that is one good thing.
Like reinforcement, it's like, we are,
the good thing about what happened to us is that, for instance, and I think that it's a very common thing. Sometimes you really believe that one song is going to be the one song that people are going to love. And that is not how it happens. We all had our bets. We had our bets, Ori and me as the songwriters, but also we have a team around us. They had their guesses. And we're all more or less, I think, wrong. And that is I think we got lucked out on this aspect, because the more your prophecies come to life, then you get schematic about things. You think, okay, I'm going to do it the same way. And then, but we were completely surprised by what was accepted well and what was not. So,
which was one of the more accepted songs?
I think that for sure Dance While You Shoot was the most successful one. And that was a song that we released thinking, it's gonna work well because it's a very good song, but it's not gonna be the song that is gonna reach masses. We never thought that, and it did a very, very unexpected way. It really surprised us. It went much better than songs like Off the Radar, which is a more proper hit song structure. It did better than it. So Balkada, I think it's Balkada. It says more like a pop song structure, no? Yes. Balkada. Yeah, Balkada. What does it mean anyhow? It doesn't mean anything. It's a word that we made up.
Right. Okay. Right. Right. Yeah. So, last question. So you were just on a European tour?
Yeah.
Yeah, through Germany. So what are your impressions
about Germany?
Yeah, go ahead. No, was it different? I don't know. It's a silly question.
Was it different? But it was different. It was different. I don't want to sound like because I'm being asked by a German writer, but Germany has been so good to us on every aspect, and we kind of got a sense on this tour of how a crowd reacts, because there are places that you go to and your music, and you feel like, your music is being accepted so well. And it's a very tricky way to kind of think about it, because the live part being on stage and performing the songs live is the one way that you can really feel the crowd's response.
Right.
You can put your stuff on the media and then see numbers, but numbers are so they are shapeless. I mean, that doesn't mean anything, and it's confusing. It gives you the wrong sense of things. The most accurate sense of things, of the connection that you have and the bond that you have
Right.
with the crowd is through live shows. And we felt in Germany especially that the response had been so warm, and we felt people being very engaged with the music, because sometimes a crowd could be very, very into the music but express it in a very quiet way. Sometimes people just want to stand and stare. Sometimes
Sure.
I do that as well, but we felt that the German audience was very engaged physically. People were dancing and cheering and clapping, and that is a very, it's a very immediate but a very good feeling of a response.
Right. You're planning to come to Spain?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I get a lot of messages from people in Spain.
Right.
Why don't you come to Spain?
Right.
And I'm guessing that that there's a plan. We are planning this summer right now, and I'm
All right. Mhm.
hoping to come by to Spain.
Nice. Right.
Yeah.
Well, Noga, off the radar. I said it. It's a fantastic album. Congratulations for that.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for taking the time to do that.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank
Yes.
you very much.
If you enjoyed this episode of Lateral Conversations and you want to support my work in this podcast, you can do so by using the Patreon link or the donate button from PayPal, or you just can buy me a coffee. I will put the link below the episode. I want to thank everybody who already supports me. Very much appreciated. I hope you tune in next time. All the best to you guys. Have a good one.
And you don't need a shell. You see life's worth so. Demons in your drawer and in the back of your head. You share.